For this final module, we're going to implement animation into Unity. So in order to do this, I'm going to go back first to the Maya file that I had for the robot. And I'm not going to do anything complex. I'm just going to create a few different animations. So I'm going to go between 1 and 48. At frame 1, I'm going to grab the two arm IKs and hit S. At 12, I will bring these down. Select both of them again. Make sure I select the IK handles and not the joint. Hit S again. At 24, I'm going to copy, paste. So now I've got this motion in. So it's nothing fancy, but it's an animation. I'm then, at frame 24, I'm going to grab the two neck joints. Or the neck and the head joint, so shift select those. I'll do it at frame 1 as well, so 1 and 24, so it's starting in the same place. Here about 36, I'm going to rotate this back, hit the S key, and then I'm going to copy and paste to 48. So I have the first part where it's just the arms, second part with the head. So once again, this is not great. This is not to show you fancy animation. This is just to get an animation in place. So with an animation now attached, I'm going to save this scene. I'm going to make sure that I get everything updated. So I'm going to grab this, the robot. I'm going to copy, and I'm going to replace the one here. So yes, I want to copy and replace. Now I'm also going to do an FBX export, but I want to show you what happens within this. Right now, if I go back to Unity and that robot updates, there's now animation information attached to this robot. So if I go to the original robot, I go to animations, without anything saved, it would have shown up saying that there's no animations attached. But right now I can actually create a couple of different animations. So I can grab this first one, change the name. This will be arm flap. And that will be between frames 1 and 23. So I'll do this, 23. And hit apply. Actually, I'm going to loop as well. Hit apply. The second one I will call head bob. I could also do walk, idle, or whatever else I need to. This one I'm going to do at 24 to 47. And I will loop that as well and hit apply. And so if I want to know what that looks like, I can pull this up. So once again, this is with the object selected, the import settings, going over to animations to set that up. But I can hit play and watch the head move. If I select arm flap, nothing's happening. So let me explain why that is. It does not natively read the IK handles or the locators. In order to have that come through, what I need to do is bake the animations. And what that will do is that will take the information that is being created through the IK handle movement and bake it back into the joints. And so if I select bake animations and then hit play, well, I guess I need to hit apply first, and then hit play. Now it's actually playing through the animation. Now the FBX is going to be the same way. When you're able to do this just directly with a Maya file, you can just click Bake Animations here. With an FBX file, I won't be able to do the same thing. So I'm going to show that to you right now. So once again, I will select this mesh, File, Export Selection, and I'm just going to keep those default settings that I had for the FBX file. Make sure I come into the correct place this time. So 3D1 project assets, Maya stuff, models. It's the robot export FBX, and I export selection. Yes, I want to replace it. Yes, there's an issue. But now I can come to this one that was the FBX, and you'll notice Bake Animations is grayed out. And I can set up the same animation, so I can do arm flap, And let me lower this back down a little bit. So 1 to 23. I'm going to loop that, hit apply. And if I play, nothing happens because it's not able to bake that IK handle information. However, if I create the second animation, head bob, 24 to 47, hit apply. Oh, let me make sure to loop that as well. That one works because this animation is based on the joint movement, not on IK handles controlling it. So to get this to work, first I'm just going to save everything just to be safe. But this is actually being stored under the project rather than the scene, which is what I saved. But what I can do is when I export, File, Export Selection, here in the FBX export information, if I come under Animation, I can scroll down to Bake Animations. And then I'm baking it a frame at a time on export. Now I don't want to actually bake it into the scene because if I need to make changes to the animation and there is a baked frame on every one of these, it becomes very difficult to change animations. I only want to do the bake on the export. So when I do the FBX export, then I bake the animations. And once again, export selection, replace, yes, still an issue, but we'll move on. All right, so now with that updated export, let me grab the arm flap. Now that IK handle information and any locator information or anything else that you're using would be baked into the joints and the joint movement. All right, so this is how I can use it. So right now, if I just hit play in the scene, you'll notice nothing is happening. Although those animations are there, they're not being utilized. And so in order to utilize an animation, I need to make sure that I have some way of controlling it. So there is currently no animation controller. So what I can do for these is I can either create it in a new folder or someplace else. I'm just going to put it here at the same directory as the models for now. I will create animation controller. And I will call this Maya animation. I'm going to create a second one. And this will be FBX animation. And now I simply need to utilize these animation controllers. By double-clicking on the animation controller, it brings up the Animator window. I can also find that by going Window, Animator to bring that up. And so what I can do is I can select under the robot, and under its assets you can see there's arm flap and head bob. Those are the two animations that were created when I went through this process under the robot import settings. If I click again to create a new one and hit apply, you'll see that that take one just showed up. I'm actually going to step back. So in order to remove that, I'll want to come back up to the robot, select take one, and remove that. Hit apply. Okay. But anyways, with those selected and making sure that I have the Maya animation controller set up, I can bring in arm flap or I can bring in head bob. I can create transitions in between, so I can make transition and then tell it when to make a transition. In this case, I'm not going to. I'm just going to delete that transition. So hit the delete key. So I'm just going to have it do arm flap and then just have it repeat that. So now when I select play, it's still not working. Okay, so here's why. Even though I've created that animation controller, as you can see, it's there, it's got the arm flap, it should be working, it needs to be applied to the object. So I can come up here to the robot, and right here where it shows that there's no controller, I can drag in this Maya animation controller. And now if I hit play, you'll see that it runs through that animation. If I want to see it, I can go to the animator and I can see this is how it's happening. If I do want to make a transition and it's going to be based on time, I can have it transitioning back and forth between these two animations. So as I come to the game mode, you can see that now it's going between those two animations. And there are other ways I can create transitions. For example, clicking on a button that causes the character to jump, you can cause it at that point to use that as a transition to go into a jump animation. When the character moves, you can transition from idle to run and walk and all those other things. But this is the basis for how you can set up animation. So I'm going to stop this right now. And a quick note, if you notice with the animator, all the changes I made while the game was in play remained because it was an external resource. Anything that's happening in the scene, so if I go to the scene, and if I hit play, even if I pause it, so I hit escape and then come up and hit pause, if I add in anything else right now into the scene, so you see all these chairs I'm adding, as soon as I stop play, those disappear. So you want to be careful not to make too many changes while you're in play mode. Yet again, there are some things that it can retain, but others that it can't. So you want to be careful with that. So very quickly for this now, I am going to move on to the second character. So once again, I select the FBX animation, double click on that so I can pull that up in the animator. With this robot, I'm going to grab those same animations and head bob. I'm just going to leave it on arm flap for right now, but I can also adjust the speed. I want that arm flap to be a little faster, so I'll make that 10. And now if I hit play, once again, nothing's working because I have to attach it to the actual object where it's currently not showing that animation controller. So I'm going to grab the FBX animation controller, drop that in, and now if I hit play, it's going, but super fast. So let me slow that down just a little bit more. The arm flap, I will change that speed to like 3. Go back to the game. Yeah, we'll go with that. So once more, I now have this game where I've got this flapping character and another one that's doing some sort of early morning stretches. Okay, so that's where I'm going to stop the video for here, but there are a lot of different ways to continue to apply animations onto things. Unity also has an in-editor animation or animator. So if you go Window, Animation, so I can create animations through this. There's a lot of different ways to do similar processes. And the cool thing is, now that you understand the basics of the 3D content creation pipeline, a lot of the tools transition from one thing to the next. So even the way that you can approach animation, the way you can you save keyframes, you control the animation curves, and things like that that you learned in Maya can actually be applied to Unity and any number of other game engines and other 3D modeling software and things like that. So these basic skills will transition. It's just learning where the tools are and how they function. So I'm going to stop this video for here, and then I'm going to come back and we're going to take a look at lighting and then do one final build.